Hello, everybody, and welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Monday. Um, sometimes I think Mondays, why did I pick Monday to go live? Mondays are crazy days, just kind of recovering from your weekend and all that fun stuff. So, for those of you that are hopped on, leave it in the comments. Where are you from? What are you doing? What are you working on? Okay. Hi, Lori from Michigan. Welcome. Love it. Love it. Yeah, so I don't know about you, but the wavy borders is a fun phenomenon. Said no one ever, right? So, if you do customer quilts, you probably run into them a heck of a lot more than you do if you're just doing your own quilts. But every now and then I get a little lazy about putting my own borders on, and they have a little bit of a wave to them. So now when I was doing customer quilts, believe me, I've seen just about everything that, could be seen. Like I like borders that I don't know, they were like standing at attention and waving, both arms like, hey, how's it going? Which is like you look at it and you're like, wow, like how am I going to tackle this? So that's what we're kind of talking about today. So leave it in the comments whether you have wavy borders on your own quilts or you are doing customer quilts and you have wavy borders there. So let me know in the comments because mine, sometimes it's mine because I don't measure, which isn't good. So first off, I'm just going to preface this by saying, not even preface it by saying, I'm just going to say, when you put your borders on your quilt, typically what I do is, hi Brenda, how are you? Is I measure, right? I'm going to measure top, middle, bottom, and then I take the average of that, and that's what I cut my border to. Then I'm actually going to fold in half the border, fold in half the quilt, match up the center. Now, if my quilts are really long, I'll do centers, quarters, all of that. But we're going to say it's a small one. I'm going to line up my center, pin it, and then pin the ends. And then if there's any but a little bit of fullness or anything, I try to distribute it evenly through that border. So I do that on both, all four, this way and then this way. And that's how you should be measuring your borders to eliminate having those waves. Now, there's other things we can do if you've got setting triangles. Really try and make sure that you cut them so that the bias edges are not on the side, on the edges, right? Because when we apply borders, sometimes we kind of pull and tug, and that's going to create some more of those waves. Now, I know if you guys have any questions, do me a favor, when you pop them into the comments, just put a Q so that I can go back and look at them. So I'm going to say, so we've measured our borders. Now, to check for fullness in your borders, easiest thing, and this came from Karen, one of my tribe members, if you open up the quilt, right, and fold the edge to the center, right? So you're not folding it in half, you're just folding the edge to the center. If that edge is wider, then there's fullness, right? So that's an easy way, if you don't want to measure, that you can say, hey, you know what? There's a little bit of fullness in this, okay? So love the easy way, because when I did customer quilts, what I did on intake with them there is I would measure. So if there was any kind of discrepancies, then I can say, hey, you know what, we might have an issue here. So again, if you guys have a better way of figuring out if there's fullness or not, then I'd love to see that. Just pop that into the chat as well. And when I go back through, we can talk about it. So we've checked for fullness. Now, I, in Tribe, did a deep dive into full borders, right? And how we can better manage them and all of that. But so this was a sample that I put together. where I cut the border longer and made the fullness in there. So you can see that border's waving at you. Now, it's not horrible, right? But, there's some fullness. Now, if I did something that is going to push the fabric, then that fullness is going to be pushed as well. So the best treatment I have found for full borders is if you just do a piano key border. So here, oh, where did it go? I lost it. Let's see if this is it. There we go. I didn't move it. All right. So there it is in all its glory. So again, a piano key border is great. You can also do a beadboard border, which is you go up over 1/4 of an inch, then you do the big increment. So I have a couple of free demos on that on my free site, which is qgfree.com. That's just my free resource site for you guys. So you can hop over there and check those out. But so beadboard borders or piano key borders, something linear that's just kind of suck in that fullness, is actually going to be the best for those waving borders. Really, the best thing is just not to have to deal with them at all. But, sometimes that is just not, sometimes that's just not happening. So, okay, that's the wrong one. There we go, that slide. Okay, so there have been times where there's so much fullness that even doing the piano key border doesn't work. So now in that case, let me move that up. So this is Karen as well. So she was explaining how she does hers. So you can take tucks, right? So you're actually going to kind of scrunch in the fullness to one spot, fold it over, and I would do a basting stitch to hold that down, and then quilt as you would. And then if it's a customer quilt, you're going to ask them, they're going to have to go through similar to how they stitch down a binding, and they'll stitch that down so it's not as noticeable. This looks more like a seam than it does a tuck, right? So that's something that's easy, kind of easy fix. But I always liked to hand out a sheet when my customers had wavy borders, and it was how to attach them so you don't have that. And some people were very open and they wanted to be better, and then others just were like, no, I'm fine with how it is. So you get both sides of the fence. Let's see what else I got for you. So when you're doing an edge to edge, and this is from Karen as well, an edge to edge design. So if you've got fullness within the interior of the quilt, she based that area so that she distributes it evenly with her hands, right? Because what happens is with edge to edge, we are like literally pushing the fabric along. So that's what you want to avoid. So in basting that area, that helps. Now the other thing, and I did this quite often, is as you're quilting one-handed. Now you can't do this with pantos, but if you're working from the front of the machine, if you push down on the whole top and backing, right, and kind of pull it taut over your machine, that's another way that you can kind of manipulate that fullness. Now, I've had double D cups in the center of quilts at times, and I literally cut a piece of batting, like high loft batting, that size, kind of put it under there, and then quilted, and that sucked up that fullness. So the goal is not to have any pleats or tucks in your quilt, obviously, and so that's what that extra batting actually helped with. So that is that. Let me go back to this screen. Now, if you guys have any questions or a different way of doing it, I'm just going to kind of quickly go through the comments here. We've got Oklahoma, Missouri. Love it. Yes, thanks, Vicki. My wall clock is on standard time. I got to take it off the wall to fix it. So I'm just going to, Wait, hold on, let me find it. I'm going to hold my hand up there so that you can't see it. Okay. All right, Susan. Oops, we're not going to be able to see that. Susan, customer quilts are mostly good, but every once in a while, it's like, what happened here? Oh, for sure. I totally know that. Yeah, that's crazy. Been there. Hi, Carol. How are ya? So Vicky says, just confirming, we do measure. I'm going to fix this so that you guys can actually see it. That should be better. Yeah. Actually, let's fix it so it's even better. Sorry, let me put that back up there. Sorry. I'm just trying to fix this so that you guys can actually see it. No, we don't. No. Okay, we're going to go back to that. All right. So just confirming, do we measure and average each side by itself versus matching left and right border sizes? So let's just say we've got, I'm going to do a crude drawing here, right? So this is our quilt. I'm going to measure 1, 2, 3, right? Middle and both sides. And I'm going to cut that border, the average of those. And it'll be for this side and this side over here. Then I'll do it the opposite way. I'm going to measure here, here, and here for those two borders. So I hope that answers your question, and that I'm not being graded on my drawing because that was really kind of terrible. Okay, so Susan, does anyone give their customers an info sheet on sewing good borders? I did when I was in business. And I will tell you again, like I had both sides of the coin. Some people were great and they wanted to fix their borders, and other people weren't. One of the things that I really want to kind of get through, don't ever be afraid to say, you know what, this is really bad. You need to take this back and you need to fix this before I do anything with it. Okay. So don't be afraid to say that. I turned away, maybe a handful of quilts because the borders were so wavy that really they just needed to be taken off and redone. So one customer paid me to fix it, and there was 5 extra inches of fabric in the border. That's how much I had to cut off once I removed that border. It was insane. I couldn't believe it. She couldn't believe it because I kept the piece for her. It was nuts. Absolutely nuts. Hi, Jeannie. Yes, that's the way you were taught to measure borders, but I must confess on small table runners. Oh my God, yes, totally. I get it because on those smaller projects, I do the same thing and then I cross my fingers and I really hope that I don't come up with some waves. So, and Jeannie, I have a golf story to tell you. So I'll tell that. I'll email you about that later. But yeah, I have a golf story to tell you. It was amazing, phenomenal. Couldn't believe it. So that's all I have for you guys today. So what I want to remind you is we're all threading our needle one at a time. If you want to hop on to my email list, up at the top on Facebook and in I think my profile on YouTube, there is a link, or you can go to my website down here and hop on and get all the good stuff. So like everything else, I'm a work in progress and I am trying to get better at emailing. So right now it's at twice a month. Working on getting up and doing it weekly. So that's the goal, but we'll see how that works. All right, everybody, I hope you have a fantastic day. Oh, Arlene, watching as you're traveling up 15 toward Canada. I love that. I love that. Yep, Jeannie. Yep. Since you're quilting your own, you suffer if you're, yeah. For sure. All right, everybody. I will see you next Monday. Don't have a topic. It might be a studio update because the studio is looking good. So, all right. Have a fantastic day, and I will see you all next week.